Welcome back. New World Fantasy Football, episode 7. Paul, how you doing, man?
What's up, Marchese? How we living?
Doing well, man. Doing well. Ready to talk about what's been going on in this crazy, wacky NFL world that we like to look into. So we don't live in it, but we look
Yeah,
into it.
man, a absolute cornucopia of content right now. The NFL world is drunk, and we have nothing but talking points to get into here. Apologies for the gap between episodes. Something like Tua Tagovailoa out there. We all get injuries, and we have to miss some time. I was on a 2-week concussion protocol, as my friend can attest to here, but feeling healthy. I
Coworker.
don't think that I'm gonna die from it. I hope. But yeah, we're back.
Yeah, so after that injury, I'm going to have to refer to you as just my coworker and not my friend anymore. No, I'm just kidding, man. But yeah, so would you like to indulge people of how you got injured?
Um,
It wasn't your
I,
fault.
yeah, I mean, it's a dumb story. I tried to take a couple seconds to like think of a cooler thing to say, but I'm just gonna tell the truth. So I play adult league softball, like many old people that are losing athleticism, the little athleticism that I had in the first place. Um, and I guess I've always like had this fear of like getting hit by like a line drive or whatever, like, but I don't think that's ever going to happen because I'm looking at the ball, right? Like you see like where the ball is getting hit or where it's coming from. But like I can't see behind my head. I don't have eyes in the back of my head. So I'm running between second and third. And I don't remember if it was the shortstop or the second baseman, but somebody who was not very far away from me at all decides to sidearm rifle a ball at the same time that I'm sliding in. Freaking just straight up bonks right in the back of the head. I don't really like lose consciousness or anything, but it hurt for sure. And yeah, like pretty classic fuzziness, like after the fact. I think I kicked the ball around in the outfield, and started to kind of realize that I was headed towards concussion town, USA. And pretty much like every day after that for 10 days, I had freaking migraine symptoms, which sucked pretty hard. But yeah, that's where we're at.
My question is, were you called safe or out?
Oh, I was safe. You know, being that my brain was in between the glove and the ball, I was definitely safe.
Well, hey, concussions are a serious thing as the NFL, any sport, but especially the NFL, we see it all the time. I did, I was not there, but I was a story of a guy who, same situation, except he got beamed in the face with a softball and he had to get plates put in his side of his face. So, any of adult softball players out there, just be careful, as much as you can. It's every so often crazy stuff can happen and that. But yeah, man. So
It's not
let's
it's not supposed to be a contact sport. It's not
no.
meant to be I don't want to play a contact
I
sport at
remember
this
getting
point.
I remember getting not nearly what you got, but in between I was trying to take second base, and I was out on this, but the dude just brought that glove down so fast and smashed me in the face. Like it was the glove with the ball in it, and I was
Brutal.
out. So it was insult to injury right there. And I was like, I didn't get injured, but it still hurt. I was like, you smacked me in the face with the
Was
ball.
I playing that season? I kind of
Yeah, I
remember
was.
that.
I think every time I played softball, you were on the team. So I'm sure you
Yeah.
were. I don't remember exactly how long ago, but Yeah, I just remember that getting smashed in the face, stealing second, and being out. And I'm like, mother. But then I did juke a catcher at home that one time. It was pretty
Nice.
sweet.
I do. So I remember that one. I remember
Yeah, I don't
that
know
one.
how I was called safe on that, but I was. So
I'm not
win
sure.
some, win some, lose
So
some.
I definitely think that you left the base path for sure. But like I think that the juke was so nasty and the dude like fucking, did one of these. That I think the ump just kind of hooked you
I
up because
think it
it
was
was a
more
cool
the
play. It
ump.
was funny.
I think it was more the ump looking down at to see the play of like if he's going to tag me than looking at where I was.
Yeah, you
Um,
definitely looped right around that base.
regardless, like the adult softball umpire that's getting paid $40 for the game and just is ready to get home doesn't really care that much.
Yeah, them dudes are
So
terrible.
yeah, but dude, let's talk about this trade, man. So I'm gonna talk about the details between the Bears
Yes.
and the Panthers.
The
So
trade.
the big trade so far, when Aaron Rodgers, it turns out he does get traded, that will be pretty huge too. But hasn't happened. So the details got it pulled up to make sure it's accurate. The Bears received the Panthers' 9th overall pick. So obviously they swapped. So the Bears got the 9th overall pick from the Panthers, their second round pick, their later one. They have another one from the Christian McCaffrey trade, which is the 61st overall pick. And then in 2023, they got, oh, sorry, 2024. So those are the two picks they got this year. 2024, they've got the first rounder, or they gave the Bears the first rounder. And 2025, a second round pick, and then of course DJ Moore. So multiple picks, pretty high picks, and pretty solid receiver. One of the better, I'd say probably underrated receivers in the league, being he plays in Carolina. They haven't been great. And he hasn't really had much around him for him to show off.
Yeah, man. Instant reaction to the trade when I saw it go through. Like, it's of course the reaction right now is that the Bears did win the trade. They won the trade because they were in a super high leverage position. They had the number 1 overall pick because the Colts suck. Lovie Smith decided to win a game as a final middle finger to being a lame duck coach. That's what happens when you throw a guy on a 1-year deal. And and gave them a position of strength. I really did not want the Colts to sell the house to move up a few spots to take a quarterback. Of course, if one of these quarterbacks turns into a franchise quarterback, then of course it's worth it. It's worth it. You get a franchise quarterback, it's absolutely worth it. But ultimately, the Bears win the trade because they didn't have to have a quarterback. They threw that super unnecessary smokescreen out there, like, well, we don't know, guys. We might take a quarterback. Obviously, they weren't going to take a quarterback. So they got the picks. The picks is awesome because obviously they just get to have more high value draft capital for this year and next year. But the DJ Moore thing, that's the part of the trade for me where I'm like, why Carolina? That's the thing, because you've held on to DJ Moore this long. Yes, it feels like he's older because he's been in the league for so long, but he had such a young draft age, right?
Yeah, I think he was only 20 when he came out. He might have
so
been
he's
21, but
I think he's only 25 right now.
Yeah,
he has plenty of juice left. Okay, you're trading up to get your franchise quarterback because you're convinced about a guy, but you don't keep your most proven receiver to help the maturation of that quarterback. Therefore, domino effect, the draft pick that you're going to owe the Bears next year is going to be in the top 3 to 5 picks because you are going to suck big old eggs. I'm not into that part of it. I would almost have rather given an extra pick versus DJ Moore, even if you had to give another future first, even if, because he's a proven player. I'm not that was the part of me that I couldn't vibe with. I don't know where your thoughts are at.
So that would have made it a like 3 first-round picks. Well, kind of like 2 because they swapped.
Yeah.
Obviously, the first one they swapped, but 2 extra first-rounders. Maybe that's just the negotiating of Ryan Poles for the Bears and other offers. Maybe it was like, okay, well, I've got the Raiders want to come up. I've got maybe the Colts. Who knows? What other teams are involved. Like, these guys are willing to give me this, whatever, just throwing it out there. Washington, if Washington was talking about moving up that far, like they said they're going to throw in Terry McLaurin. What are you going to do? I mean, I'd rather not move down to 16. I'd rather move down only to 9, but that deal is pretty darn good. So who knows, man? It's hard to say. We're never going to know those conversations that happened. My reaction to the trade is I think the Bears got pretty much good value, but that's going to really depend on, is their receiving core, does DJ Moore solidify that receiving core now? Because you got to think the Bears feel pretty good about it. You got DJ Moore, you got Darnell Mooney coming back, you got Claypool, which now he can be, but you know what? If he can retain that third to fourth option role on the Bears, that's fine. How much are they really going to be throwing the ball? Justin Fields has got to develop as a passer. So I think Ryan Poles saw something like, look what Philly just did with Jalen Hurts, with getting him that top flight receiver. And yes, AJ Brown is greater than DJ Moore, but I still trying to emulate the same thing. I've got him a very solid, experienced receiver who I know can get open, can win down the field. So that helps my quarterback develop now. On the flip side, for the Panthers, I see your point and I understand that. But if, assuming it's Bryce Young, which I think the world is probably, betting that it's Bryce Young, number 1 overall.
#short king.
Sure. I guess, how much does hype matter? I guess, we're continuing to find out the studies in the NFL that it's important, but it's not the most important at that position, at least. So I get what you're saying. Does a guy like Terrace Marshall start to develop? I don't know. But it's like you said, if they believe that Bryce Young is truly a franchise guy, nothing else really matters, because he can elevate other guys around him. And listen, I know it always looks like, oh wow, it looks crazy when these trades get made and so many picks. But you know what, dude? Those picks are still gonna regenerate as years go on. Like, that's kind of a stupid word to use, is regenerate, but the picks you're gonna be getting, right? And you're like, all right, we gave up like 3 picks ultimately, but if we got our franchise guy, like, there's so many ways to acquire players. We'll still pick another receiver for him. We'll find ways to get playmakers on this roster. And it's like, even if it's a year down the road, so what? We've got our franchise guy. Like, they hope Bryce Young is, once again, assuming it's Bryce Young, but I'm going to just keep assuming that until it's not. You hope that you're going to be giving him the $50 million a year deal in in 2028. You hope that that's what you're going to be doing, because he's been that guy.
Yeah.
And then all this extra trade and these picks, none of it matters. You got Bryce Young. He's a top 3 quarterback in the league. Nothing else matters. It's fine. So obviously Frank Reich and company, their GM, I don't know their GM's name, believe that. So I lost Paul here.
You didn't lose me. I just got up for a second.
Okay, you good? So yeah, the Panthers front office believes that the quarterback they're going to pick, assuming Bryce Young, is that guy. And I also just want to mention how funny I think it is that Frank Reich got fired by the Colts, and then he said, "Screw you guys, I'm jumping you," and
Somebody was
you're
always
not going
going
to get.
to.
Yeah, most likely, but it's just funny that it ended up being the Panthers.
So, and I'll kind of jump into that. I agree with what you're saying, right? Because ultimately, we talk about this all the time. You know, this is like I'm probably even more so like this than you are. Got to get the quarterback. Like, no matter what, like, forget everything else. You have to get the quarterback, and kind of go through that situation, knowing what it was going to take and what it was going to cost. I'm glad that the Colts didn't do this. Now, listen to me talking all this crap and watch the Colts just randomly like hop Arizona one pick, right? And and sell the farm. I don't know what they're going to do. But at this point, I would say it's very unlikely that they're going to do that. Unless it's a last ditch attempt or effort to stop somebody else from doing that, right?
Yeah, that'd be the
Like,
only reason to do it.
exactly. Because the presumption is that Arizona, would not take quarterback. I do want to put a pin in that and talk about that a little later. But as of right now, yeah, I mean, you have to get the franchise quarterback, and that's what it costs. But the Bears won the trade because they were in such a great position. So great trade for the Bears. Bear freaking down. They're back. And I said this. You can rewind to a previous episode and pull it up. Like, the reason why I was so crazy high on Justin Fields this coming year for fantasy is because of that assumption. Like, the Chase Claypool trade, Ryan Poles has done a great job. I feel like this trade makes up for the Claypool trade that to me is kind of whatever, kind of a flop. Like, I'm sure he'll be fine, but I think that Claypool just is who he is at this point. A field stretcher and a big body. That's kind of what he is. And I thought they gave up a lot. So they got back everything and then some that they gave up for Claypool, plus DJ Moore. So big win. The Justin Fields stock source, Fields to the moon. Like, I already knew that he had that unstoppable baseline of rushing. And all he needed for me was just a true number one receiver to take maybe not the full Jalen Hurts ascension, but the Jalen Hurts style of ascension, right? He had a decent sophomore campaign compared to his rookie year. Got into 16, 17 touchdowns range throwing the ball. To me, throwing DJ Moore and having a legitimate wide receiver one, which I've always felt like DJ is a wide receiver one, and killed myself in fantasy trying to make that happen for several years. Yeah, I think that adds probably like 6-7 touchdowns to the total. A little bit of increased efficiency in terms of the passing game opens up more for everything else. Like, I got him to the moon. He's right there for me in that top three. And man, like, you could even talk me into more than that. I'm super high on Fields. The real question for me is, what does this do for DJ Moore's stock? Because I know what DJ Moore does for Justin, but what does Justin do for DJ Moore, Andrew?
That's going to have a lot to do with the scheme they're going to run, and they didn't trade for him for no reason. If you're just looking on paper, he's going to be their top receiver. Darnell Mooney is solid, and I think he's really good, but I think that maybe him being a number one guy is asking too much. I don't think that's the case for DJ Moore. And yeah, I think that they're going to be an efficient offense. I still think, my devil's advocate question was going to be, well, what if that leads to Fields not running as much? But I really don't believe that, because I think that people's tendencies are their tendencies. And when he gets in a little bit of trouble, he's just going to run.
Yeah, it's
For the
always
most
there.
part. For the most part. Not every time, but that's just his tendency. So, yeah, I mean, I agree with you. Justin Fields' stock has went up. And the question is, how crazy are we going to be? How crazy is the market going to be around Justin Fields and then Bears offense in its entirety come draft season? They've
Yeah,
got to
that's the question.
they got to solidify O-line.
Yes.
And then
I
other than that,
expect them to spend some money there. I expect
they can,
that.
yeah, and they have plenty of money. I don't know how much they just took on with DJ Moore, but they can definitely afford him. Without, I don't think they have to do much with this contract, if anything at all. Who knows? We'll see what they do.
They
Going
literally
forward.
just took the playbook from Philadelphia. They took the same playbook. They're like, second year, promising athlete at quarterback, give him the weapons, put the O-line around him, spend the money around him, see who you have. Like, I see a very, very similar trajectory.
Yeah, I think so, and I think he's got probably has more speed than Hurts. So
God, he can
some of those
fly,
big plays
bro.
will be even
He
bigger. Justin Fields, he's going to go in terms of quarterbacks. It wouldn't surprise me if it goes Allen, Mahomes, and some people actually do take Justin Fields even over Hurts. Hey, if you're in love with the guy, if you're in love with his potential, go get your guy. Which is what Panthers just did.
That would be a little crazy to me. I was probably using a bit of hyperbole there, but man, I just really like targeting him in drafts where he would be drafted, right? Like, I think you're right. I think those top three are pretty solidified, but I'm not taking any of the passing only guys over him. I won't do it.
And you shouldn't. I don't care how much you like Joe Burrow. Like, how nasty Joe Burrow is as a passer. Like,
he's a better quarterback.
He is, but that doesn't always matter for fantasy. That doesn't always matter for fantasy.
Scoring is stupid, and we take advantage of that.
Hey, that's the way the rules are set up. We got to take advantage of that, and it's the same for every player. It's not like, my points count differently than yours or anybody else. So, trades and all that, always fun. How about the trade that hasn't happened
yet?
It was not going to happen yet. Well, I'm talking about Lamar Jackson, not Rodgers.
Oh, okay.
So this trade, well, I guess it technically still could happen, but doesn't look like that's going to be the case. Does anybody come up and get, or just pay that price for Lamar Jackson? And so far it doesn't look like it.
No, I think. Look, man, it's like there's so much to unpack with the Lamar situation. I think number one thing is cautionary tale. I know it costs a lot of money. Get an agent, man. Get a freaking agent. Like, you need somebody who is an industry insider to advocate for you. You need somebody who can do the work before you're already in your arbitration year, right? Like, you need somebody to get in there and create that buzz, be that like high school matchmaker, like, hey, Cindy, I heard Andrew really likes you. Hey, Cindy, like, whatever, and I think if you don't have an agent, you put yourself in a potentially tough situation. And I know you're seeing a bunch of stuff online, right, with Lamar. This is a conspiracy. I can't believe Lamar. Like, okay, so they compare him to your guy, Daniel Jones, right? And, on paper, right, like, yeah, okay, Daniel Jones is like maybe like what, the same age, if not, maybe 1 year older. than Lamar, or they're like a very
Nothing to
similar
really worry
age.
about from the quarterback position. I mean,
Right,
yeah,
but like their production, like Lamar's production in comparison to Daniel Jones kind of speaks for itself in terms of his career.
yeah, definitely.
Um, but I will be fair to Danny Dimes here that the arrows are pointing in different directions. So Lamar had one of the best seasons of all time in 2019. He's been down basically every year since then.
Yeah.
In terms of QBR, in terms of health. I mean, he hasn't played more than 12 games in the last 2 years. The way he plays is concerning for some people, and I think that from a team perspective, right? There's a challenge where, okay, the Ravens are successful with Lamar, but the Ravens built a team around Lamar, and around his skill set, run the damn ball all the time from every position, right? So, I think that there's a thought out there in the league that maybe Lamar, you would have to do a lot of moving around on your own team, or you would have to be the right team situation to go get him. I say that with the caveat that Atlanta should be that team. If there's a team that should go get Lamar, it should be Atlanta. I mean, Arthur Smith's wet dreams at night are running the ball. So, like, what are we talking about? So yeah, I think somebody on like from a fan perspective, and just looking at the situation from just like the talent that Lamar is, plus your team, yes, it should work. But from a money standpoint, no one's going to give him the guaranteed money that Deshaun got. Cleveland, just because Cleveland wanted to be stupid and give their quarterback a crazy contract to the molester, doesn't mean that everybody else's teams need to do that, because that's just not how the NFL traditionally has been set up. So I don't think it's like a full like collusion among the owners, but I just think a lot of them are just not interested in doing the fully guaranteed money. And even if it's not fully guaranteed money, here's my question for you, Andrew. If the Ravens are not committing a long-term contract to you and they're just franchising you, why should I trade my my two first-round picks in the next two drafts to get you now instead of just wait you out for a year?
There are impatient teams. There are impatient fan bases. I do think fan bases play a little bit into some of the decision making, depending
Pressure.
on the team. Depending on the team, because for the most part, these owners are businessmen, and if something is going to be worth the investment, they're going to do it. I don't think they feel as a team construction like it makes sense for them to go and pay for Lamar, because I do think there's also that part of like running your own business. Like if that team is your business, yes, somebody might be really talented, but if you know their trouble, you're going to really think twice about bringing them in. I don't think Lamar is like a trouble in terms of his personality, but I think that financially he can become a major thorn in your side, as he's proving right now. Like, so you're saying you have to give up your two first rounders, which plenty of teams would love to have Lamar on their team right now.
Yes.
But
on
the two
paper,
first
it would be
rounders are
worth
it.
On
Yeah.
paper, it would be worth it.
But at the same time, they have to think about how much money do I need to lock up in this escrow account to be able to make sure that he's going to show up to work. You know, that guaranteed money that he's demanding really, I think, puts that that question in the owners' minds.
Allegedly demanding. We don't like, these are kind of rumors that he's
Why
looking for
else would the
Deshaun's
Ravens not
deal.
sign him though, man? Like what?
I don't know that they've ever been super excited about signing him long term. I always got the sense that this was coming to a head.
Dude, Ravens are a playoff team every year. Like they're not going to give up I'm going to say guaranteed, but almost a guaranteed playoff spot with Lamar every single year, a chance to make a run at the Super Bowl because of a few $1 million. It's the millions and millions and millions of a player that's been injured multiple times and they haven't been able to get over the hump with them. I don't blame Lamar and his talent for this deal not going through. I think it's like what you said, not having that agent to like kind of put a bow on this and say, hey man, like I know you saw, I don't know if he's your buddy, but you saw this dude, Massage Watson, get an insane deal that no other player in the NFL has ever gotten, as far as I know. I don't know, at least recent history has ever gotten.
Like Pat Mahomes' deal has a lot of guarantees in it, but not fully guaranteed. That's NBA status. That's right. Wild.
Yeah. So it's like that was the exception. We're not making that the rule for you, Lamar. We're making that's the exception from one desperate owner saying, screw it, get the guy because we haven't had a quarterback in 35 friggin' years. You know? So he's looking at that one example saying, I deserve that because I'm better and I've been here. I've been in the NFL, not just going, to the back rooms of spas or whatever, or going to my special room in my house so that I can, get massaged. Like
he has a point.
He does have a point, but I think the NFL owners have a point too of like, bro, we're not playing this crap. We're not playing this crap. So I think it's more of that. And they're like, dude, if that's going to be the case, then good luck. Like, I hope you get your deal somewhere else. That's what it seems like to me.
So yes. And look, I'm with you. Ultimately, I do agree with you. That's it. A little bit of devil's advocacy here. Do you give credence to the thought that this is a coordinated effort among the owners to suppress the idea of, okay, if one person gets a crazy guaranteed contract, that's an outlier. If two people get it, it's a trend. Jerry, Jim Irsay, all these guys, let's come together, smash this in the bud, make sure this doesn't happen. And Lamar is unfortunately the victim of, what ultimately, like if that is true, right? Not provable, but if it's true, that would be collusion. Do you think it's coordinated or do you think it's just business logic?
I would guess it's business logic. Like if I pick up the phone and I'm like, dude, whatever. Let's just say like we're managers at grocery stores. It's like, can you believe what Walmart's paying their employees? Like, what are they doing? Like their margins are gonna be so much farther down now.
They just hired a new manager for $180,000 a year.
Right. So then if I go to like, a Kroger and I'm like, they paid this guy, I have the same experience, I have better experience than him, why don't you give it to me? No, like, that's just not how we do things. Sorry, but maybe you can find another Walmart, but there's only one Walmart and that was the Browns. You know what I mean? So like,
yeah, the Browns really messed everything up.
They're like, we don't do that. We're not going to bring in a grocery manager or a store manager at $200K a year. Our going rate is 120. Maybe we negotiate a little bit and we give you 130, but you're not getting the 200 guaranteed, man. Like that's just not what we do here. So I feel like it's more of that. But at the same time, maybe you got a friend that works at Publix that you're like, yeah, we're not doing that. Like, yeah, I'm not doing that either.
The only way that I can see the trade happening is because here's the thing. I don't see the trade happening anytime soon. It's definitely not going to happen before the draft. because I don't think teams would want to give immediate draft capital to someone. And I don't think that, I think the teams are still going to try to explore the options to like, dude, the recipe for easy roster construction in the NFL is to get a good young quarterback. That's the recipe for success. That's, the Ravens have been doing that, right? And now things have been really easy. They can go get Roquan, right? Pay him whatever he wants to make. It's easy now, but it gets hard when you have to pay a lot of guarantees to a quarterback. So the only way that I can really see it happening is post-draft, dust settles, people get their quarterbacks, a little FOMO, permeates among the teams and the fan bases out there. And Lamar is willing to accept a good deal, a big deal that carries just not as much guarantees. If he's willing to come down in terms of his expectations, like, okay, I can end up earning just as much money as Deshaun Watson, but it's just not fully guaranteed. It's on me. I think that's eventually where he's going to have to go, unfortunately. And he's just going to see there's not, that there's not a lot of interest out there to give somebody fully guaranteed money that runs a lot, gets injured a lot, has unfortunately regressed as a passer in recent years. But somebody on paper, somebody should take a shot on him. That's what makes this such a fascinating topic to talk about. But yeah, I think after the draft, if he's willing to sign something that is too rich for the Ravens' blood, but is not fully guaranteed, I do think it can get done that way. But right now, this is a good old fashioned freaking Texas, like
standoff, man.
Yeah, man. The tumbleweed going across the empty ghost town, man.
And these teams, like they are looking down the road always. That is the responsibility of a good general manager. Dave Gettleman, terrible. He didn't look down the road. There is a lot of most GMs that stick around. They're looking down the road. They're looking at the next 2-3 years too, saying, if I do this today, how much is it going to hurt our team? Potentially, it's always a risk down the line. It could really hurt us. It could really, hamstring us to not be able to really craft a team. Like we're just like, okay, we have this quarterback. God forbid he gets injured. And now you're like, have a lost year. That lost years gets people fired.
I think it's the first round picks, and I think it's a genius move ultimately by the Ravens. They know that teams giving up 2 first round picks just on the off chance to basically like bully the Ravens into signing a contract. I think it's just a genius negotiating tactic to get them down off the. I won't use that quarterback's name here. The molester's cloud. He's in a world of his own. He got his bag, but I just think it's a drive down negotiation tactic. But
sure,
to put a bow on this from a fantasy football perspective, let's assume deal doesn't get done. Non-exclusive franchise tag. Nobody comes knocking. We don't get something done.
If they come, I will say this.
What are we doing? What are we doing about the Ravens?
One thing I want to say, if they do, and what from the point you said of it is going to force that crazy ask to come down, like then the Ravens will just match it. And they'll be like, thank you. You're back in Baltimore. Thanks. I know it took a lot longer and a lot more
testing the market, seeing what the real market is.
But that's what it is. All right. Thanks. Now you're getting a deal that we're comfortable with. So come on back. But yes. So we were saying that if the holdout is for real.
Yes. If it does not get done, A, do you think Lamar actually does hold out?
Yeah.
And B, then what do we do? Then what do we do from the Ravens?
Don't draft them. That's it. Like you just don't draft them. Like not
They already
high.
had kind of a weak supporting cast, low
Yeah,
key, to be honest.
like not high. I mean, if it seems like they're going in the direction of holdout and they have, I don't even know if they have Tyler Huntley under contract right now, but either way, they're going to be a really hard team to score points. It's going to be a struggle for them for sure. I would say you can still draft Mark Andrews, not nearly as high. He was overdrafted last year, obviously, and maybe you invest in their running game a little bit, but if J.K. Dobbins is locked in as their starter, maybe you were drafting him in the third, fourth round. Now you're drafting him in the fifth or sixth round.
Right. And I'd still be afraid just because of his injury history. And,
yeah,
Lamar always pulled a spy, right? He always pulled a spy on his own.
Yeah.
Which allows, dude, I remember when the Devontae Freemans of the world were fantasy relevant going to the Ravens? Like,
Kenyon
the
Drake
Lamar
this
effect
year
is real.
Dude, I mean, I remember seeing the first time I remember seeing that effect was RG3. Like they like Alfred Morris was a good running back. For
Alfred
fantasy.
Morris.
Yeah.
Blast from the past.
Was like he's pulling every linebacker. Every time he does a little fake, he's pulling the linebackers out of whatever. It was getting the job done. That's tremendous. And I think that's a really so we'll transition to the Giants now because they actually got the deal done. That's a factor for the combination of Daniel Jones and Saquon is they started kind of like babying Daniel Jones a bit in that offense and being like, let's just set up easy stuff for him. And like later in the year, they kind of started being a little bit more of a drop back team. But, first half of the year, it was like a lot of these run option plays and Daniel Jones was able to get a lot of big plays running the ball off these option plays and then Saquon as well. So you go ahead because I obviously have a very detailed opinion of this. And before I water it down, just tell me what your thoughts are on that deal.
Yeah, so I will give you the outside NFL fan observer's opinion of the Daniel Jones deal. And then, I would love to hear actually a more like nuanced being a Giants fan, I don't know how nuanced it will.
I'll give you the facts. I'll give you the facts and then I'll give you my opinions, but you go first.
But at least an insider because you obviously follow that team way closer than I do. But yeah, man, I mean, from the surface, here's what I would say. There are a lot of people dumping on the trade because Daniel Jones, $160 million, blah blah blah. Like that's $10 million a touchdown pass. What are you doing? Like, first of all, NFL contracts. Stop looking at Twitter, people. Stop it. It's not a $160 million contract. It can be if he's awesome, and then it's still a deal. But the reality is, it's what, $82 million plus I think it's like a $30-some million roster bonus. So. I think it's what 100 and probably 100 and change over 4 years. Yes.
When it's my turn, I'll talk about the details because I know them.
I think it's a 4-year deal. If I'm not just completely off on that, but ultimately, I think it's fine. Like I think getting the team to the playoffs, he earned himself another chance. I think that, if I'm the GM, I try to not commit to a player that I'm not 100% sure about, which I'm still not 100% sure on Daniel Jones, but I try not to commit to them for more than about 3 years. I would try. But if 4 years is where they landed, I think it's fine. It's fine. I'm not like, I don't think it's a bad deal, and I don't think it hamstrings them from doing anything they need to do. Andrew, I'm sure you've got more details than that.
So yeah, the deal was obviously 4 years, 160, which do the math, 40 million a year is the AAV.
Hmm.
But what the Giants did with this contract was they really protected themselves and they were able to make sure they have some flexibility for this year and following years. So his cap hit for this upcoming season is 19.5, which gives them roughly $13 million more than if they would have had to franchise tag him. Also gave them the ability to franchise Saquon. I won't get into that yet. Let's just stick on Daniel Jones. His following year, his second year, is the balloon year of 45 million. But the Giants have like 150, 160 million or somewhere in that neighborhood of next year, which obviously that'll shrink as they start paying their own players and all that. But those 2 years, he's basically getting, it's like 84 million guaranteed or 82 million. And then the third year, it's 94. So it goes up, it's like an extra 12. So it's like 94 million is what the guarantees are total. And then his fourth year is basically he has a potential void year. So he can, the Giants are basically, it's a 4-year deal, but it's really a 3-year deal. And they gave themselves the flexibility, like you said. It's really a 3-year deal for all intensive purposes. And yeah, the Giants gave him a fair deal. I think a solid deal for what he's done, his body of work. And they still protected themselves in the future. So there are examples of other teams giving contracts and then finding another star QB, a la Alex Smith to Patrick Mahomes. They gave Alex Smith a pretty solid deal, and then they ended up drafting a guy over him regardless. It's not like it stops the Giants or any team that does this from moving on from Daniel if it's not working out. And the incentives are like achievable but difficult things. So it's not like it's basically if he reaches the incentives, it'd have been worth it.
Yeah, you have a franchise
So,
quarterback at that point, essentially.
right. So it's like,
or you're
okay,
getting
whatever.
production.
You don't care about that money anymore because he's proven he's well worth it. So your average fan that doesn't follow a certain team, they're not going to know that. But I obviously am digging into what the Giants are doing in those contracts all the time. So I know it a little better. I feel very happy, very comfortable that the Giants can grow from here, whether it's at the very least the next 2 years, but then beyond that, whether Daniel Jones is the quarterback or not going into like 2025, 2026, I think the Giants can still grow as a team.
Absolutely. So
there's one more guy we should talk about. I know we're starting to forget because it's already been like a week or so. But how are we feeling about Derek Carr?
Yeah, it's funny. It feels like it really does feel like the news is coming so fast these days that's like yesterday's news.
Yeah.
Derek Carr thing. I'm personally not going to spend a lot of time here because I feel like it's a pretty straightforward conversation. It's a plus. Whatever the Saints had between Famous Anus and
Red Rifle.
Andy Dalton, the Red Rocket, he's going to be an upgrade over that. So it's an upgrade to their existing offense and their roster. Probably, unfortunately, does make them the favorite in the NFC South, just by default because the rest of the teams suck, including my own team.
We'll see what the Panthers look like with the number 1 overall pick now.
I feel like you always have hope if you have a good rookie quarterback, but I just feel like it's tough to imagine that roster being gutted the way it was also. making serious noise. But anyways, I think the Saints will definitely be better. Derek Carr still is a pretty whack fantasy option in my opinion. Like he's doesn't give you anything with his legs, and he's not crazy elite anymore in terms of touchdowns or total touchdowns. But Chris Olave stock way on the rise for me. My man is a known spammer. He's been like that his whole career. And Chris Olave is the one spammable guy on that team. So, yes, please give me Chris Olave. I want more.
Yeah, I definitely feel like that's going to be his draft stock is going to rise, and just like any other market, I think it's going to continue to rise because people are going to be excited about Olave, even if it wasn't, dude. Even if it was still Jameis or whatever, he's still a second-year receiver that has shown promise, and he's made big plays down the field. So for me, this is probably going to transition the conversation into more fantasy and like how we perceive things. When I think about receivers that I'm excited to draft, it's always like I have a couple plays in my head that's like, that was a lot of fantasy points, and that's a very like silly way to think about it, but that's just like where the spark starts, like, oh man, that guy had like that 80-yard touchdown. It's like Gabe Davis when he had that like 99 or 98-yard touchdown. People are like, remember that. They're going to be like, that was awesome. I want that on my team.
Yeah, the stock exploded because of that. Because there's big people remember big moments, right? A lot of people probably wouldn't think of, okay, give me your immediate thought of DJ Moore's season last year. Well, he still had 12. I mean, he had the automatic DJ Moore season every year.
What, 1,200 yards?
1,200 plus
5
yards,
touchdowns.
Not a lot of touchdowns. I think it was like 4 or 5.
But I remember the one play against Atlanta where he caught that like touchdown to go into overtime.
Yeah. And so people remember big moments, and that's natural. Saquon gets tagged. Sad face for him. Unfortunately, I think that's probably par for the course with just running backs in general. I am going to give my general thumbs down publicly to the NFLPA because I think they need to do something for the running back position.
I agree. Their rookie contract should be 2 years. That's what I think.
Yeah, something like that. Like anything. I'd like build in incentives. Do something that you can incentivize, understanding that like you have to protect these players. Right now, the NFLPA is the worst PA in all of American pro sports. I don't care what anybody says. They suck. There is no pro athlete that has less power versus the ownership groups than NFL players. And I'm not with that. I don't jive with that. So be better, NFLPA. That's my quick thumbs down there. I want to segue off something that you said earlier that really like kind of triggered a thought I had, that I got some controversy when I was talking to other people about it. And I'm curious about you or about this with you. I think the presumption for a lot of people is, okay, Bears set the market. The next team to trade down to a quarterback needy team is Arizona. Arizona's on the clock to trade. So that would be the traditional like idea. And, I think that there could be a lot of value in doing that. But are we 100% sure that they should not draft a quarterback?
I'm not, but I've also never really cared for Kyler Murray. And that's mainly his personality, which isn't really fair. Honestly, man, they gave him a mega contract. So it's hard to like come off that. But as I just said before, teams have done that. I don't think in this case that will happen, because if we're assuming it's the combination of Young and Stroud, are you really going to draft some of the bigger question mark guys over Kyler Murray, or, to replace Kyler Murray? Because I think if you're drafting a quarterback third, fourth overall, third overall, let's pick the have, you're saying that you're committing to that player potentially becoming your franchise QB. So in this case, no. But if you're more asking the question, is Kyler Murray a replaceable player? Definitely.
And, Andrew, like all of that, by the way, all that makes sense. Like that's definitely what the more traditionally logical people will say is like, well, you just paid Kyler Murray a crap ton of money and you made him your franchise quarterback. Because that's how we treat quarterbacks in the NFL. We are committed to you. You are our guy. You are going to be the face of our franchise. We are all in on you. But I will ask the question, is that really how it should be? If everyone universally agrees that quarterback is the most important position on the field, and everyone understands that if you have a franchise quarterback that gets hurt, you are screwed as a team in terms of your ability to affect winning. If we are all in agreement that quarterbacks don't really lose their value, right? Aaron Rodgers has been a dick for like 3 years and is the richest man in football. Because everyone understands that if you have the ability to throw the ball down the field and hit open receivers, your value really doesn't go down. So understanding all of that and treating this from just like a purely like asset management perspective, I would argue that you should draft first round quarterbacks if you like the guy and you're in a position to do it. I would even make the argument that Arizona might be the perfect place for an Anthony Richardson. He's a project. I mean, dude, but like let's pause on this hot take for a second and reflect on the crazy slobbing that has been happening over Richardson's combine. His 40 time.
Do you want to start on that? Because I'll go in.
Please. I'll put a slight pause in my take, and give me your take on AR-15.
Well, I'm not going to get ag about it. What did the combine tell us about him? Nothing.
Super fast.
Nothing. We already knew that. Everybody knew that.
He's got a howitzer arm. And here's the stupidest one, Andrew. Here's the stupidest one. He can jump 40+ inches in the air. That's cool. That's really cool. I would be very interested in that if we were drafting basketball players. But what the hell does that have to do with playing quarterback? Why are we testing that? Why does that matter?
People are enamored with the athleticism, and that's amazing. That's great. You're not going into the NFL to play a position where jumping high is all that important. Like maybe on a occasional basis that might come in handy, but like
a receiver, yes.
Yeah, then all the time. Like,
yeah.
But as a quarterback, I don't really see, like, does he need to be like Tim Tebow ×3 and do like, I do jump passes, but I go even higher. Like, okay, like,
it's the dumbest thing. Why did we measure that? That's the dumbest thing. It's cool. It was impressive. I'm not gonna lie to you. I saw it. It was impressive.
He is a fantastic top tier athlete.
He's a hoss. He looks like a Greek god with his shirt off.
Dude, nobody can take away. I can't discredit the guy for his athleticism. His potential is through the roof. That's great. That's awesome. Should a team take a chance on him early? Yes, definitely. I do not think he should start year one. That's all I'm saying about him. Like, I think I've been pretty open about my dislike for Anthony Richardson as a prospect.
No, and
I
you're not
don't like
saying as
him.
a person, like
No,
just
I don't.
as like
I don't
like
know a
as
thing
a
about
as
the
an
guy as a
NFL
person. I have
passing
no idea
prospect.
about him as a person, dude. I have no idea about Anthony Richardson as a person. Maybe he's a great guy. Maybe, I don't know. But as a quarterback, a player, a person that needs to process the game a lot faster than he used to, and he was struggling in college to do that. He would have a good quarter and 2 bad quarters and really put his team in bad positions, throw bad interceptions. It's the classic example of Jekyll and Hyde. He's going to throw a friggin' 70-yard bomb down the field, and if it hits, you think that's the best quarterback you ever seen in that moment. That's amazing. That's hard to do. But at the same time, he's going to throw a 10-yard curl that gets off by 5 fucking yards that's intercepted. So, which is worse?
Yeah, and Andrew, and
So yeah,
I don't care to look this up at all, but like I'll bet you, number one, I'll bet you this guy's going top 5, and it very very well could be the
he
Colts.
might. If not, he's at least going top 10. I will say
Yeah,
that. I think Detroit is the best option for him. He's got a good coach, a good offense, a team that's just being ascending. Let Jared Goff start one more year. No one's excited about Jared Goff. He's the most, skin color aside, vanilla quarterback you could possibly have. You know what I mean? Like, there's nothing
pun
exciting.
intended.
His name is Jared Goff.
Yeah.
Like, hello, I am Jared Goff. I sell insurance. Like,
yeah, man.
But he's solid.
And he was pretty good. He was pretty good last year.
Listen, he's going to be what the offense around him is. He's not going to really lower it. He's not going to really raise it.
He's not going to elevate it.
But he's good. He's serviceable, man. Like, let Anthony Richardson play behind him for at least a year, or come on, the majority of a year.
Doesn't have sound mechanics, which scares me, right? And like I said, he very well could go to the Colts, and if that happens, I'm not like thrilled about it, but I will resign myself that, number one, you're banking on the potential. Like you cannot teach what you can't teach. Somebody being that absurdly fast in the new NFL and having that kind of cannon for an arm, and also understanding that like you're going to suck again and you're going to be in the top 3 drafting again and building a team that way. So like there's an argument to be made for that. But to continue the take that I had before that I put a brief pause on, to me, Arizona should take Richardson. You have a quarterback that has probably proven at this point to be slightly an injury concern, is a proven commodity, is under a big contract. You can have a guy that plays behind him for a while, and the optics are going to be bad. The fans are going to be pissed. Imagine what we could have had instead of this guy. You could say all of these things, but if you are a smart manager of assets and you're saying, I think I have my franchise quarterback that I paid crazy money to, but then I also think that there's a potential that I could be drafting Josh Allen had a baby with Jalen Hurts. Dude, like,
I don't know how that's physically possible.
You do that every day.
Okay.
You do that every day.
Yes, but
because
I will
then you
say,
trade him for 1 million picks after that.
Excuse me. That ownership group has to be starting to get pissed off. You drafted Josh Rosen like 10 overall, and the very next year you're like, Kyler Murray.
Yeah.
And then a few years later, it's like, Anthony Richardson. And then if that doesn't work out, like really the way you want it, when it comes to Arizona,
they really haven't been, but like, because then they traded Josh Richardson for what, a couple twos? I don't remember Josh Richardson.
Yeah.
They traded Josh Rosen away. He didn't really lose his value that much, even though he sucked total tank.
Another team took a shot at him, and like I want to say, there's like this is kind of petty, but I'm gonna say it. And there's a YouTuber that I used to follow Well, I do follow him, but I'm kind of like soured on him. And he pounded the table for Josh Rosen when he was getting drafted. He pounded the table for him. Like, this guy has so much potential.
Freezing cold takes.
All this stuff. And hated the Saquon pick, which I didn't love the Saquon pick, but he's contributed to the Giants.
And he's been what you drafted him to be.
For the most part. Not injured, but
yeah.
Yes. But while he's on the field, yes. And now he's pounding the table, not for the Giants to take him, but for Anthony Richardson. And I'm like so tempted to comment and be like, I can just like, and this is so petty and so mean, and I would never do this.
Just comment with the old video on Josh
Rosen. I would
Rosen.
never do this, but I want to be like, get off YouTube. Your takes suck. You know, like anybody could say, everybody who talks about any kind of sport on YouTube is subject to that. And that's just reality. And I would never say that, but like, because that's messed up. And it's his opinion. He's entitled to it. But I'm just like, dude, you were so wrong on Josh Rosen. And now I think you're going to be so wrong on Anthony Richardson. Listen, I hope for whatever team drafts Anthony Richardson, assuming it's not the NFC East, that he has a great career and does well for them. Dude, I don't know. I think Arizona, back to what you're saying, talking about Arizona, I think they need the safest blue chip player they can get and just start building up the roster that's besides QB. And then if Kyler is just not going to work out, at that point you're like, okay, we built up this roster pretty damn good. Let's get ourselves a quarterback on a rookie deal. That's all. I think I would love to see Anthony Richardson go to Detroit because they have 2 first-round picks. Take the moonshot on Anthony Richardson. Let him sit for a year. You should still have a good season. He can learn. He can work with the coaches. His mechanics can get better. He doesn't have to be in the spotlight for a whole year. Every highly drafted quarterback that has controversy, Daniel Jones being one of them, where it's every time he throws a pick, Max Kellerman comes out like, I told you he sucks. And then every time he has a good game, you have other people who are like, Daniel Jones is the truth. I told you. Like, dude, like, and a lot of the younger generation, like, I wouldn't consider ourselves old, but we weren't born into social media.
Right.
Like, by the time pretty much, like, they could.
I was born in it.
Yeah.
Molded by it.
They could, but by the time they can throw a football, like, Facebook and Instagram were a thing, you know?
Yeah.
So, like, they're not going to be able to avoid it the same way. Like, that's infused in their life. So they're going to see it. You know, they're going to see Stephen A. Smith say whatever negative crap he might say, or positive, and vice versa. This guy says something negative, and like, I think it's better to keep him out of the spotlight for a year, just a year or close to it, and let him develop on a good team, on a good roster with good coaches. I think that then he can definitely thrive. They can make the most out of it. If he goes to some dumpster fire roster and they're like, yeah, dude, good luck. Like, we have our O-line's terrible, our receivers suck, and our defense is kind of rough. Like, dude, I don't know.
Yeah.
I think that start matters so much for quarterbacks.
So I will say this. I fully understand and agree with everything you're saying about AR-15. 100%. I know for a fact that he could be amazing. It will not be his rookie year.
Yes.
Will not be. Like, he could be, like, awesome. And, you know, it worries me, right? Because you've already been playing football, like, you know, for a few years and kind of haven't really figured out how to get that completion percentage, like, over the Mason-Dixon line, right? But, you know, with NFL preparation and with, you know, better players potentially around you, like, I know that's kind of one of the excuses that people use is that, you know, Florida didn't necessarily have the best like receiving weapons around him all the time. So if it happens traditionally the way that you say it, I would actually want the Colts to take the chance because I don't really care about having another bad season. They're not one quarterback away. So, Will Levis, like, okay, whatever. He looks like a traditional quarterback, like, has like will probably have a better rookie year and could be better. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I've watched grinded a ton of tape on Will Levis, but from the things I hear, like there seems to be like a pretty clear delineation between the top two guys and everybody else. I'll take the freak. I'll
Yeah.
take the freak athlete and see what happens.
I mean, if I'm in that spot, I'm probably going to take Richardson just for what you said. Like, give me the chance on the upside. I think Will Levis is really solid. I think he's got some athleticism to him as well. I like Levis a lot. I think he's going to be good too. So I think Stroud is probably the safest bet, just because he doesn't have the same drawback of height.
Which is why I think ultimately Carolina, just with that big haul, I think they go the safe route. I do think they go Stroud. If you want like my prediction that you can point to later,
I'm still going to take Bryce because I think Bryce, he has that improviser like trait that the most fun offenses have. Like the Bills, obviously, and the Chiefs, they have that super improviser that can just make shit happen all the time. And I think the NFL really wants that, I mean,
Yeah.
and the same thing goes, I don't know, like Jalen Hurts is a bit of an improviser, but not nearly as much. Like
not as much
his
as
stuff is
people
just designed that he just executes perfectly,
Yeah. He actually like he played a very clean quarterback this year and took him to the bowl. So
yeah,
excited to see what happens. Man, that's I feel like we kind of covered like everything, like potential free agency,
well,
rumors, draft coverage.
how do you feel about what Odell Beckham might be? Because yesterday he just had like workouts. He did like a he did like an open workout or whatever.
That's what I think.
Yeah, hey, the Giants were there. Well, the Giants wide receiver coach was there. But they're desperate for wide receivers, so it's like, all right, he's a wide receiver. Like let's at least take a look.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think Odell can definitely help a team, and obviously he showed in his last healthy short season with the Rams that he can be a difference maker. I won't draft him probably for fantasy, even if he does land with a team, because I'm afraid that he's going to be one of those players that, like, the name is always going to outweigh the game at this point of where he's at. Like, he's like, Odell's back. Everybody, those big moments, right? Everybody remembers the catch. Everybody remembers those first couple seasons when he was like, amazingly good. But this football thing, brother, it's a young man's game. It's
and healthy man's game.
It is a healthy man's game. That is critically the main thing. So he can help a team. I don't see him like taking on a number one receiver's workload. So no, the more interesting rumor to me, A-Rod to the Jets. It's picking up steam. I'm seeing live stuff come through in the Twitter sphere. Seems like both sides kind of want to make it happen and want to move on. So, obviously by this recording, we don't have this officially down that it's going to happen. So we're not going to be able to talk about what the draft haul is or anything that way. But Aaron Rodgers to the Jets. what is the fantasy fallout of that for you? Where does that leave everyone else?
So that leaves Jordan Love starting with Green Bay, which is he's virtually an unknown with all his years being in the NFL behind Rodgers. I would be very weary of drafting players on Green Bay. That includes Aaron Jones, Watson, all of them. I'm not saying they're off my board, but they're going to take a step down.
Scary hours.
Yeah, it's just such an unknown, man. Such an unknown. And then for the Jets, Garrett Wilson's going to skyrocket his stock.
Wilson to the moon. Wilson to the moon.
His stock's going to skyrocket. Assuming Breece Hall's back, Rodgers has usually found ways to have good running games. He definitely audibles his way into some good running plays for sure.
Yeah, he'll take the screen when it's there.
Oh yeah, Rodgers usually wants to get the ball out of his hands pretty fast if he can. And he's got good weapon. He'd have good weapons there. Maybe he can turn Elijah Moore, revitalize that career for Elijah Moore. And they got a few more O-line pieces that help them. They'll be in good shape. They'll be in really good shape. And their defense was pretty solid last year. They might lose a few guys, but if Rodgers can come in and be 3/4 of his prime, they'll be a force to be reckoned with.
Hilarious. It's hilarious. Trade a bunch of draft capital to get Zach Wilson. He sucks so hard. Teams don't give up on quarterbacks that fast. They just don't do it. But he is just trash in every possible way that it's able to be trash. Trash in the film room, trash in the media, trash on the field,
trash in bed,
the locker room.
Apparently, from what those moms say.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe the Cougars like it, but that doesn't help their team win football games. And like, you have just fumbled the bag so epically that a team that just put this much trade and draft capital in you is like, fuck it, I'm gonna do it again. I'm gonna trade more draft capital.
I don't think that the Jets traded for him, but what they did was they won a game to not get Trevor Lawrence. Remember?
Who am I thinking of that moved up to draft a terrible quarterback?
Well, the Bears did that. With Trubisky. The Bears traded up.
Maybe that's what I'm thinking of.
Like they
Sorry, Jets fans.
They picked Trubisky over Mahomes and Watson.
Yeah.
Pretty sure that was that draft. Oh my god.
That was bear down territory. This is bear up now. We're in bear up.
Yeah, but still, that useless game they won to to not get Trevor Lawrence. Not that Trevor Lawrence has been incredible.
I knew it was something dumb.
But Trevor Lawrence is going up, and Zach Wilson is like cratering.
But he was, dude. It was a bad pick in the moment. In the moment, I was like, why?
But you know what, dude?
Why?
He was another guy with very good upside, like traits, physical traits, big arm, could move a bit. Like, once again, another traits quarterback that's just crashing hard, man. That's why the whole Richardson hype worries me, because it's like he's a mega traits guy that hasn't shown he can play quarterback well consistently.
Yeah,
not to bring it back to that,
scares
but
the hell out of me too. Scares the hell out of me too.
That's what's scary about it, because you don't know. There's so many examples of traits QBs, like just being major bust. But I guess I guess you got to keep trying.
Yeah, I think that the right team has to trade for him, right? Or I say trade, has to draft him, right? Like the right team, understanding the situation. I think the Jets, with Saleh, with some of the moves they've made in recent years, they have a more win now mindset and capability than a lot of the teams are in the top five picking quarterbacks this year. So yeah, I think that they should do it. I personally will say I think they will do it. I think they will trade for Rodgers. Love everything about the Jets going forward. I think that Wilson was so terrible that it's even though like Rodgers, like he's not the guy that we're thinking anymore. Like he's not that guy, but it doesn't matter because Wilson and to some extent Mike White was definitely better, but Mike White he's a jag. He's just a guy in my opinion. Um like Wilson was so bad that Rodgers even being slightly above replacement level is transformative to that offense for me. So like give me Elijah Moore, give me Garrett Wilson. Give it to me. Give it to me.
I'm with you, man. And I think Rodgers still has good amount left in the tank. I think the only worry for Jets as a franchise and their fans is how long do they, if they get Rodgers, how long do they get him for? Is it a year, 2 years? You know, what's going to happen? Is he going to go back in his dark closet and, you know, say that he wants to be a shuffleboard player? Like, he's an odd guy, and but listen, and the other thing about it is, okay, you're going to the AFC now, where you've got like over the last 5 years or whatever, all the mega QBs ended up in the AFC for the most part. So it's like, man, he has a harder road to make the Super Bowl, win the Super Bowl. Well, make the Super Bowl.
That is true. And I will definitely say that I don't think that like so from a fantasy perspective, I'm being selfish here. It's just the moon. Yeah. I don't think they make it to the Super Bowl, but like let's be honest with Jets fans out there, like losing in a conference finals like Rodgers loves to do is kind of like their Super Bowl.
Maybe, but man, how many Jets fans out there just how old do you have to be to have seen the Jets win the Super Bowl?
What was it, 70 something?
Yeah, early 70s, I believe, is their last Super Bowl win.
Yeah, so to actually remember it, you would have to be in your 60s.
Yeah. So, but then, you know,
I just want to see Rodgers in New York media. That is hilarious. Like that is going to give us so much like memeable content.
They are not going to be friends.
No, they will not. That's a clash of titans.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
He's going to be spelling 10-letter words out to them. Like I would like to see that trade, but at the same time, I don't know. I think I'm more interested in the fantasy side of it too. Like, how high does Rodgers go then? Like, I think we've all pretty much said he's not a top 10, not top 12 fantasy quarterback anymore.
In Green Bay.
But okay, so we had our top 12 quarterbacks.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
Way too early rankings.
Yeah, way too early rankings. Like, I think if he ends up on the Jets, he'll pop into that top 12. Because we had like Daniel Jones in there. I would probably put Rodgers above just because like Daniel Jones hasn't put together stats like the same way ever. And like who else was low on there? Geno Smith. Maybe.
You always have the Kirk Cousins, like Mason Dixon line there.
Yeah.
In terms of I mean he would probably he would be in some people's top 12, and I wouldn't like necessarily have an argument with that. I just think that I'm always more focused on okay, who is a really talented receiver that has toiled with a bad quarterback that has the youth and the speed and all the things. And so Garrett Wilson would be a guy that, obviously you idiot. Like, everybody's going to be on him, right? Like, and you know, and he's going to end up going in a pretty high round. But I think there'd be some sneaky values out of that team as well.
For sure. For sure. And then, like you said before, Chris Olave with Carr. I mean, Rodgers is still better than Carr, but that could be helpful too. But dude.
So, question. Do we see another draft trade? Do we see another trade of the Cardinals
before draft night?
Like before draft, like, because I know there's trades, on draft night.
That'll happen.
People going up and down.
That'll happen on draft night for sure.
But somebody jumping up.
I mean, we'll see. I think in a very similar style, I could see a team like Atlanta, if they want to get up to 3, maybe they can do it.
Oh my God. If they take Richardson, that offense is going to be so gross. That's going to be so disgusting.
And that's one thing we can say. If they want to mold a team, an offense that's run heavy, that also relies on a lot of quarterback rushing, like Anthony Richardson,
go get baby Lamar.
Do that from day one.
Don't pay. What's that meme? It's like, Mom, can I have McDonald's? It's like, oh, I want Lamar Jackson. We have Lamar Jackson at home.
Yeah.
Lamar Jackson at home.
Right. And it's Anthony Richardson. But I can see that being successful from early on. If, you run that kind of option offense, that would definitely be interesting. But yeah, I mean, something you were talking about before that I wanted to speak on is we talk a lot about this quote unquote new NFL of a lot of getting value. Teams are putting this into their repertoire that a running quarterback is a big advantage. But it's still not everything. And it's not even the majority. You still have to have quarterbacks that can win through the air to give you an elite offense. If they just run, okay, just stop them on the run, And I think that's been the thing that holds Lamar's value back a little bit is he's inconsistent throwing the ball, so a lot of times he'll make that mistake. We can force him into that mistake by just being patient. You
need the new NFL. I think a lot of fans get it wrong, and I think this is what you're alluding to. A fan says you have to get a running quarterback to win in today's NFL. The disagreement is you need a good quarterback that can run.
That's the ideal situation.
They have to be a good quarterback first.
Yeah. And that's the ideal situation. But not too long ago, we had Brady still winning Super Bowls.
Yeah.
Peyton Manning won a Super Bowl. Mahomes just won again, and he can run a bit, but he played the Super Bowl on a bum ankle.
Yeah. But that's a thing too, is that you can be an alien athletically and not necessarily be a running quarterback. Patrick Mahomes is an alien. His ability to throw off platform, throw off schedule, and he does have legs that he can threaten with as well.
He's not a slouch. He can definitely move a bit.
I think the reason why so many teams like it is because it provides the ability to make a play that wasn't there. Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, incredible quarterbacks, the best tacticians that have ever been in the game. And they're outliers too, right? They have big arms. We're not going to act like they're not athletes. They have big arms.
Yeah. They just weren't fast.
Right. They weren't fast. And they, they had the ability to read offense, which of course that's the number one thing you need still. And that's the question mark a lot of times with Lamar. You still need to be able to read offenses, and they were more elite than anybody at doing that. But I will say that teams look at them now and say, okay, dang, but we also needed to make sure that we had a great offensive line around them guys, right? We had to make sure that first and second down, get within a reasonable distance, right? Stay on schedule. Running game's got to be there. If the play's not there, throw it away, right? If teams over the course of a decade started building up their pass rushes to get to these guys, bother these guys, wreck their game plan, and it started working in some ways, where I think that a lot of times the new NFL is saying, like, okay, well, how do we neutralize that? Because everything's an adjustment. The neutralization is the running quarterback, the quarterback that has the ability to make plays with his legs, because then that 3rd and 7 that is dead because your offensive line got blown up turns into a 15, 20-yard gain. So, yeah, that's what every team wants. That's the ideal.
Yeah.
That's the new – everybody tried to find the next Brady. Everybody's trying to find the next Mahomes now, the next Jalen Hurts, the next Josh Allen. That's who everybody's trying to find these days.
Yeah, and that's understandable. It gives you another valuable weapon. And that's awesome.
But you're right that it doesn't always have to be like that. You're right.
Those guys, the thing about those guys was the reading of the defenses, but it was also just incredible anticipation
and accuracy.
They could see the play, like, in the middle of it, see how it was changing and adjust, like, boom, like it happened up here so fast that, and then they had the chemistry too with good receivers.
And there will always be room for that. There will always be value in that, no matter
That's what makes Mahomes the best, is he can do that on top of everything else. And there's no throw that's not limited to him. Like, he can. It's not like, dang, I can really anticipate this guy being open 30 yards down the field, but I don't think I can make that throw. Like, no, he can, off of like one toe, and still make that throw accurately.
Yeah, man, he's out of control. He is like the mixture of, Tom Brady's like clutchness, Peyton Manning's anticipation, Michael Vick's improvisation, and the guy who's
and Jamarcus Russell's arm.
Yeah, or no, it ruined my jokes. I couldn't think of the guy's name now, but Eastbound and Down.
Oh yeah, Kenny Powers.
Kenny Powers' voice.
Yeah. Yep.
All
right, man.
We just went 2 hours, brother.
Dude, it's been a great episode. It's been a long episode, and I love the NFL. We're going to have more news, a ton more news, and things to talk about. Fantasy speculation coming up, because free agency, we're going to start seeing some stuff in like 2 days. I think on the 13th.
We got to do a draft episode, bro.
We'll do a draft episode for sure. But the 13th, I want to say they're allowed to start talking to other teams, and the 15th is the official opening of the new league year, essentially. So
legal tampering, I think, just started, right?
I think it starts on Monday.
Oh, okay.
So the 13th, March 13th. I'm pretty sure. So, yeah, we're going to start seeing a lot of things happen, a lot of buzz, a lot of excitement, a lot of potential landing spots for running backs that may lead to some points that you want on your team. So,
yes, sir.
All right, brother. I will talk to you again very soon.
I'll catch you on the flip-flop.
Peace.
Later.